I'd like to make a few comments about the attempted insurrection, or whatever you want to call it, in the USA this week. Normally when I do these, I've got a rough idea and a rough plan, but this is all extemporaneous, so forgive the pauses, etc. Basically, there is a spiritual world. We're not just a physical machine. There's more to the universe than just physical reality. And I've just started watching a series about life after death on Netflix, so if anybody's got any doubts about that, that'd be perhaps a good way to start, although I still think the best is Victor Zamet's book, so you can find him at, I think it's victorzamet.com, but do a search anyway, or I'll put a link in the description. So our soul exists. We go on beyond this life. You don't escape from your wrongdoings. You don't escape from your right doings. So this is one of the things about karma that I find mildly annoying, is that a lot of people say it, or view it as if it's only the negative stuff that you do that comes back to you. It's the good. It's like throwing stone into a pond. Whether the stone is sharp or round, or big or small, the ripples go out, and an act or a deed or a thought in this world is the same. It creates ripples that go out. Eventually it'll bounce around the pond and come back to you. So the effects of what you do will eventually come back to you. It's one of the reasons on my previous blog site, or previous website I should say, to try and get over the obsession a lot of people have that they have to pay for things. There's some work that I believe it's immoral of me to charge for. So I said, that's fine, you know, you pay what you think it's worth forward and it will come back to me in due course anyway. Also got a little joke in there about buying a Tats Loco ticket to check how that's going, but that just doesn't seem to be happening at the moment. So why would you bother trying to buy a Tats Lotto ticket? As someone I know says, that only mildly improves your chances of winning, although I do know other people who rely on it because it gives them a sense of hope, a sense of that there may be some way out of the nightmare that they're living in. And that gets me back to the USA. Yes, we don't escape the consequences of what we've done, but we still have to do the best that we can. And to be greedy for power, to be willfully misleading, or to put your allegiance into something that's ephemeral in a sense, like a political party. There's no political party that I know that say existed for 10,000 years. Although I suppose the concept hasn't been around that long, but there's more to life than mundane things. Buying a big house, buying a flashy house. I regret that I didn't stick to my guns when I was younger and just keep everything simple, small. I always liked books, so I would always have had quite a few books to transport, but there's a lot of stuff that I've got that I don't really need, and over the next few years I'm going to be finding a good home for it. If somebody can use it, that's great. So with the USA, the people who instigated this were greedy, they were lying, they were deceptive, they were addicted to power. They will, irrespective of whatever happens in the physical world, there will be consequences that come back to them spiritually. And one of the biggest consequences is that they have completely wasted this life, this incarnation of theirs, because instead of doing something constructive or learning, they chose to ignore growth and becoming a better person in favor of peer approval or whatever it was that drove them. They will have that come back to them. They're going to have to, they've said effectively to the universe, hey, I want to learn the hard way, or I'm going to refuse to learn the easy way, so you'll have to get me to learn that, teach me the hard way. That's I'm doing this extemporaneously, so that's very clumsily put. But the other people who've been misled, they're the followers. They're feeling frustration. They're feeling pain. For example, globalization has been wonderful for lifting people out of extreme poverty. And I've got friends who have benefited from that. And I've got one friend in particular at the moment in Uganda. I'm quite concerned about what's happening there with the pre-election violence. But as far as the economy goes, he's got opportunities that he wouldn't have had without globalization. But there have been people who've lost out, and the people who've been promoting globalization have been contemptuous of those people and said, oh, get another job, reskill, etc. Which is not easy, especially when our society is not set up to help people work through a career path, a lifelong path of learning and change. I'm finding that at the moment, actually, because as I get older, I just don't have the energy to keep the pace up in engineering, so I think I've got to find something that's a little bit less intense. But the people who were the followers and were duped, they also have things to learn. Some of them already have been charged, some of them have lost jobs, so there's going to be consequences and karmic consequences. But the important point here is that there's spiritual consequences too. They have not yet learned how to care for other people. They need to learn, let's see, how can I put this? They need to learn that we're all interconnected. So you cannot be better off if you gaining something is at somebody else's expense. And that's one of the points about human rights, is that a true human right never robs people of anything. Some people who've got the privilege from from discrimination in the past may feel that they're losing something out, losing power or losing their privilege, but that's not the truth. The truth is that they are better off. And this is an argument that I used to make back in the 80s and the 90s when I was my equal employment opportunity workplace representative, coming up with something that was less sexist and favoured women also as favoured men. For example, it let men who were parents spend more time with their kids because the work was not quite so intense. Although that seems to have reversed ever since little Johnny Howard had his got his claws into the Australian soul. But there's benefits in caring for people and being a better caring human being. I can understand being afraid, but the solution to fear is not to give into it and have a rage. It's like a dog. A lot of dogs that bark do so because they're terrified. The people that we saw going through the US Capitol, they weren't brave. They were cowards. They were absolutely terrified of change, of complexity, of difference. The spiritual element to all that they're doing, not only is it that they are robbing other people of their rights to freedom, safety, security, democracy, and inclusion, they're robbing themselves of the opportunity to properly address and heal their fear. Anyway, I've rambled on for long enough about that, so I'll leave it at that for now. And I hope everyone has a great 2021, or at least a better 2021 than 2020. Thank you. Blessings. So moted be.